Hi folks, and welcome to this video on Macbeth. Today we are looking at Act 4, Scene 3, which is the longest scene of the play, so I'm going to split this across 3 separate videos. And the other thing that's different about this scene in comparison to the others is that the setting is completely different. We are no longer in Scotland, but we have moved to England. Now, before we get into it, as always, we're going to do a quick knowledge check. So there are your questions on the screen. Stop the video, jot down your answers, do your best, and then start the video again to get my answers. Okay, so in question 1, in Act 4, Scene 2, Macduff's family was slaughtered by Macbeth's murderers. We saw the murder on stage of Lady Macbeth's son, and then the murderers chased her off stage and presumably killed her and her other children. It's important that this is shown on stage because it shows just how far Macbeth has gone down the line of tyranny, cruelty, and violence in order to secure his hold on the crown. It's a real turning point as well because now we see the killing of a child on stage, which is absolutely horrendous, and that's quite different to the killing of a grown man off stage, which happens when Macbeth kills Duncan in Act 2. Dramatic irony is when we know more than the characters know. So we know that this has happened to Macduff's family, but in this scene we see Macduff going about his business, talking to Malcolm, completely unaware that his family have just been murdered by Macbeth. A tyrant, now this word tyrant is going to be used quite a few times in this scene, and a tyrant is a leader who leads with cruelty, who represses any dissent, so anyone who disagrees with him is killed or is put in prison or whatever, and tyrants tend to lead for their own good, so they want to benefit themselves, getting power or money or control, and they don't lead for the good of their people. Malcolm and Macduff will have already said they are in England. They're actually at the court of King Edward the Confessor, who's King of England at this point in time. So what are we looking at today? There's 2 things I'm going to talk to you about. The first one is the culture of terror and sorrow under Macbeth's tyrannical rule. And the second thing is that Malcolm has learned from Duncan's mistakes. So we saw in Act 1 of the play that Duncan was far too trusting of Macbeth, but actually of everybody. Duncan orders the killing of 2 traitors in Act 1, and then Macbeth betrays him again pretty soon afterwards. But despite all of this betrayal, Duncan welcomes people, he gives them hugs, he rewards them for their loyalty. He never really tests anyone, but he gets far too close to people and he trusts them too much. But in this scene, what we see is that Malcolm is testing people who try to follow him. So he tests their loyalty, and we'll see that in a couple of minutes' time. So Malcolm is a very different person than Duncan was. Okay, this is the start of the scene, Act 4, Scene 3, and as we read it, I want you to just write down any words relating to the culture of terror and sorrow in Scotland. You might want to play this section of the video back a couple of times so that you've got more time to process this, or you might want to pause the video as I'm reading, whatever works for you. But as I read, I want you to write down any words relating to the culture of terror and sorrow in Scotland. So Malcolm starts off by saying, "Let us seek out some desolate shade, and there weep our sad bosoms empty." Well, a desolate shade is somewhere that's quiet, that's isolated, that's full of sadness. Macduff says, "Let us rather hold fast the mortal sword and, like good men, bestride our downfall and birthdom. Each new morn, new widows howl, new orphans cry, new sorrows strike heaven on the face, that it resounds as if it felt with Scotland, and yelled out like syllable of dolour." Malcolm, "What I believe I'll wail, what I know believe, and what I can redress. As I shall find the time to friend I will. What you have spoke, it may be so perchance. This tyrant, whose sole name blisters our tongues, was once thought honest. You have loved him well. He hath not touched you yet. I am young, but something you may deserve of him through me, and wisdom to offer up a weak, poor, innocent lamb to appease an angry God." Macduff, "I am not treacherous, but Macbeth is. A good and virtuous nature may recoil in an imperial charge, but I shall crave your pardon. That which you are, my thoughts cannot transpose. Angels are bright still, though the brightest fell. Though all things foul would wear the brows of grace, yet grace must still look so. I have lost my hopes. Perchance even there where I did find my doubts, why in that rawness left you wife and child, those precious motives, those strong knots of love without leave taking. I pray you, let not my jealousies be your dishonours, but mine own safeties. You may be rightly just, whatever I shall think. Macduff, bleed, bleed per country. Great tyranny, lay thou thy bases sure. For goodness dare not check thee, wear thou thy wrongs. The title is afeard. Fare thee well, lord, I would not be the villain that thou think'st, for the whole space that's in the tyrant's grasp and the rich east to boot. Be not offended. I speak not as in absolute fear of you. I think our country sinks beneath the yoke. It weeps, it bleeds. Each day a new gash is added to her wounds. So as I've said, you might want to go back and play that again, or pause the video and reread it on your own. Now, the words that I've picked out that relate to this culture of terror and sorrow are here in yellow. So Malcolm talks about weeping, Macduff talks about widows, orphans, so clearly a lot of the men have been killed. Malcolm refers to the tyrant. Macduff talks about the whole country bleeding. Now, we've had lots of imagery of blood all the way through the play, but generally it's been related to maybe one person's blood, so MacDonald's blood or Duncan's blood. Now this is exaggerated and it's a whole country that's bleeding. And then Malcolm picks that up and talks about how the country weeps and bleeds and new gashes are added to her wounds each day. So we have this reflection here on the unhappiness in Scotland, the violence, the terror that Macbeth is causing as he tries to use violence to hold on to his crown. Now, in this section as well, Malcolm gives some reasons for being suspicious of Macduff. And Malcolm's kind of thinking, has Macduff been sent as a spy by Macbeth? And here are the reasons in yellow on the screen. So Malcolm gives the first reason. He says, you have loved him well. As in, you got on really well with Macbeth. You were a good friend of his. You were both soldiers, etc., etc. Maybe you still are good friends with him. Then the second reason, Malcolm says he hath not touched you yet. Now this sounds a little bit strange in the modern world, but what it means is that Macduff hasn't been attacked yet by Macbeth. Macbeth hasn't taken his land, hasn't killed him, hasn't attacked his family. So that's pretty strange given how many people have been killed. So maybe Macduff hasn't been attacked because he's loyal to Macbeth. Now, here's where the dramatic irony comes in, because we know that Macbeth's entire family have been killed. Malcolm doesn't know that yet. And then at the bottom of the screen there in yellow again, here's the third reason. Malcolm says, why in that rawness left you wife and child? Like, why did you leave your family to come here? Why did you leave them defenseless? And that's a pretty good question. One of the answers, which is the truth, is that Macduff thinks that it's so important that he goes to England to get an army that he has to put that above his family. Another possibility, which Malcolm is probably thinking about here, is that Macduff's wife and child are safe because Macduff is still loyal to Macbeth and therefore Macbeth's not going to attack them. So Malcolm has a few reasons for being suspicious of Macduff. And then we have a long section of the scene here, and we're not going to read this all in total, but I'm just going to talk you through what goes on here. So here Malcolm tests Macduff's loyalty, and he does that by saying that if he became king, he would be a worse tyrant than Macbeth. He says that he's full of lust. He just wants to have sex with all the women that he sees. He says that he's really avaricious, he's really greedy, and would take everybody's money. And then he says that he has no positive qualities whatsoever. He would be an absolute, complete tyrant. Now, the logic here, I think, is that if Macduff is a spy, he will say that all of this doesn't matter, because the job of a spy is to cozy up to someone, to get close to them, and then report back information. So if Macduff is a spy, then he'll say, look, that's fine, doesn't matter, let's just build a relationship here. If he isn't a spy, then he's going to be upset because there's no way to help the people of Scotland. and Macduff is distraught at what Malcolm says. Therefore, he proves his loyalty to the people of Scotland. Now, at the end of this section, Malcolm then says, actually, you know what? I was lying. I'm a pretty good guy, really. And yes, I would be a good king. And Macduff just doesn't have anything to say. He's so surprised at this kind of trickery that Malcolm has been engaging in. But the important thing here is that Malcolm has been testing Macduff's loyalty, and that shows that he's different from his father. He's different from Duncan, and he isn't overly trusting. Okay, stop the video, and I want you to finish those 2 yellow sentences on the screen. You've got a statement in white and then this sentence to write in yellow. And thank you very much. The next video is going to be on the next section of Act 4, Scene 3.